whether we can follow that path or not. So it is very, I mean, prior to the designing of formulation of regulatory act of parliament, it is very necessary that they base it on a policy. That's the main constraint.
This issue is really overlapping with the government subsidy program. For example, I am one of the member of the governing body of Samurdhi. This year, the government allocated more than 3.5 billion rupees for that. So such a huge poverty alleviation program. What is outreach? There are a lot of problems. One is overlapping of the outreach, then the misappropriation, lot of things there. Second thing is technology. The most of educated people and the urban-based people, they can use technology. But when you go to the rural area, very remote villages, there is a problem. Except mobile phone, there's a problem with the technology. If you can give technology facilities for the rural poor, for example, palm tops business, we are introducing palm tops. Yes, palm tops, and some laptop system to the rural poor. Those are the area need technology support for the poor. That's one constraint. Another one is microfinance transparency. Transparency is key, but that is why the micro act is coming. Basic thing is the micro financial act. There is a lot of poor people's money disappear. Microfinance institution or various person, they are going to the rural area because rural people have savings habit. That's their culture. We using this environment and they are grabbing poor people's money, then disappear. Nobody knows what has happened to that money. Transparency is a key factor of the financial industry to expanding our program because the poor people are continuously cheating. Still, genuine
Poor people are cheating or they are being cheated?
They are being cheated continuously, even now also cheating. So that is the area I think Sri Lankan we are facing. Those are some kind of challenge for us.
Thank you. Excellent point. Transparency is very important to move an industry forward. Dr. Lum, you want to add something? Yes, please. Go ahead.
Which relates to the transparency. To improve transparency in the sector, and I certainly do agree that it is extremely necessary also if you want to attract some investment from wherever it should come. What do you think is the main factor to improve that transparency? And I'm thinking a little bit, if we have this, this model of inclusive financial systems, we have different columns. Is there any lack, let's say, maybe in the so-called meso level where you think there should be an improvement, let's say in accounting standards or in, data or whatever, or maybe rating institutions or things like that, or maybe also strengthening of advocacy for the sector. Is there anything you are thinking about in particular to improve transparency in the sector?
Yeah, anybody can respond to that?
I think as I mentioned in my presentation, there are some 20,000 odd MFIs scattered throughout the country. Most of them are just name boards. So probably they have been established in order to get some benefit from the donors. So that is why there is no transparency. And the large-scale MFIs in Sri Lanka, they have their own governing boards. They have the governance systems. They have, in fact, with the support of this microfinance network, they have established the governing principles there. They follow the Sri Lanka accounting and auditing standards, which again is a very good standard for the microfinance institution. So this all depends on the motive behind the MFIs. So many don't have the motive of going through the microfinance work, but they have some other objective behind it.
Thank you, Mr. Vijayawardena. Anybody else?
A couple of things. We need more capacity building. particularly capacity building comes from the group level. Small groups, we have to do and educate them to two things. One, manage their own resources and absorb outside resources. If they are not properly developed capacity within the group and the individual level, we can't develop successfully our long-term microfinance. Then other one is basically education. Education and training, skill development for particularly for entrepreneurship. That is another. Then coordination. Coordination more important from the various stakeholders. There are so many stakeholders in the grassroots level or the community level to involve in this industry. If there is no proper coordination, there are the resource wasting and overlapping and unnecessary competition creating. So if skill training, education, then coordination and capacity building in the grassroots level, then we can sort out some problem.
Thank you. Yes, Chandula?
I think one of the question was asked in 3 years' time, how would you like to see the industry? One of the things I would like to see is a partnership between commercial banks and microfinancing institutions, where there could be transition of energy flowing from commercial bank to MFIs, because commercial bank can be a wholesaler to MFIs for funding, technology, training, and so many aspects. And then there will be funding for, or avenue for funding for them. And if we can build this transition for, in Sri Lanka, a partnership between commercial bank, because MFIs, we have 60 members from a microfinance network operating in different levels. There are different sizes, different models, and if you can bring governance, central bank supervision come to commercial banks and specialized bank, and that kind of transition can come to MFIs, and I would like to see this partnership built. I think I could see even a bank like Commercial Bank in their last year's annual report has said they want to move into microfinance, being a business bank, and they themselves, if we can create this in 3 years' time, all the commercial banks have a significant partnership with MFIs, and I believe not only funding, training, technology, and governance, and many things can take place.
Thank you, Chandula. Anura, yes, please. Please take the mic.
I would like to add on one point on the issue of transparency, how we can increase the transparency. In addition to what Dr. Kirivandaniya said, I think what would be required for increasing transparency is to have a financial literacy among the general public. Because you can disclose a large number of information, but if the public cannot read and understand those, that is not transparent. And therefore, financial literacy is a very important aspect of increasing transparency, I believe.
Thank you, Anura. Thank you. And Mr. Abhivikram as well as Dr. Kirivandaniya mentioned about technology. You know that in countries like Kenya, the number of, the accounts operated through the mobile phones is much higher than the number of bank accounts. And recently, in May this year, Equity Bank of Kenya, in partnership with Safaricom, introduced a mobile phone savings account, interest-bearing savings account. Poor Kenyans in a remote area does not have to go to a bank, do not have to fill forms. Only once, then they can use their mobile phone to open a savings account and operate a savings account and earn interest on that. That program is called M-Kesho. It's built on the platform created by Safaricom for M-Pesa. It is fast growing. When you compare Sri Lanka with Kenya, we are number of years behind, backward, Stone Age in mobile phone-based banking. Our bankers are still talking about account balance checking, etc., not the frontline transformative mobile phone banking. So what do you think? You don't have questions on this? You have insights? You have views, comments?
I only have an assumption on that because we have tried to test systems with new technology. Our experience was not very positive. That does not mean that it is not possible, but my assumption at present is it's a little bit difficult really to reach the scale you would need to successfully implement things. I think if you want to implement new technologies, you really have to see that you maybe not do it only with one institution, but maybe do it on a broader level. I do not have the answer yet, but that is something what we are concerned about also.
But that can be addressed through interoperability, partly, not entirely. How do we move the industry from the current stage to a stage where we will ensure 100% financial inclusion for those who are underserved? Most of the people in this country are underserved, although outreach has expanded. Please.
Doctor, I think that I heard about these very good presentations and all your deliberations, but I think that we are discussing social mobilization and social capital building in microfinance. What is necessary for including most of the people into this net, especially poor people, we need to have built the social capital among these institutions and the social mobilization among these institutions seriously. If we can get that position, I think we can reduce a lot of problems and issues in this sector.
Thank you, thank you. But we do not want to put poor people in a substandard financial sector. We want to bring them to the mainstream. They deserve the best quality financial services. That is what we want to do. Okay? We have to bear that in mind, please.
My name's Anita Pearson. I'm from Handicap International. We're an international NGO working in around 60 countries in terms of humanitarian and development work. And indeed, we're here in Sri Lanka. We're working in the east and north areas. And it's a comment really about some of the presentations that I've heard today. We've talked about women in particular being targeted in terms of poverty. But I think here in Sri Lanka, we need to acknowledge that after a very long time, the country being in conflict, there are a large population of people who are left with disabilities. And research has shown that disability and poverty are strongly connected. So I would want to make a bid that more inclusive approaches to including people with disabilities in microfinance institutions are thought about just in simple things around how we run programs, the information that we provide to communities, how accessible is that for people with disabilities?
Thank you. People with differently able, capacities, etc. So thank you. Excellent point. And yeah, somebody mentioned about the policy, and you don't have views on that, because if we look at the government documents and government various statements, these things are littered with subsidized credit programs. And if you look at this, in fact, Mr. Vijayawardena mentioned the subsidy syndrome. That is one of the biggest problems in the industry in Sri Lanka. It undermines commercial sustainable microfinance and inclusive finance. And if you go to some of the major political documents in this country, they say that up to 100,000 rupees you can get even interest-free for the first year. Then in the second year, we will give you at 6% rate of interest. People are scared to talk about this openly, but these things deserve public discourse. We need to debate this, discuss this, and address these things. I would like to hear from you. Yes, please. Can we please get the microphone here?
My name is Ayanti. I represent an organization called LAFSAS, which is established with the United Nations Human Settlement Program and Government of Sri Lanka. And listening to some of the conversations that we've had, I think it's very important from the point of view of the government as well to create innovative financial tools, because we said MFIs don't